Welcome to Stuck in My Mind podcast, the show where we dive into the mind of a regular guy on his road to self-discovery. You'll hear everyday people just like you share the latest topics, personal stories, and things they've learned along the way. And now, please welcome your host, Wise.
And welcome to another live edition of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I'm your host, W-I-Z-E. I have a very special guest. He is the host of Beer and Other Podcasts. Welcome to the show, Craig Thorne. What's going on, brother?
Yes, sir. Chilling, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I am doing very well.
Love it. Thank you for having me, dude. Appreciate it.
I love the title of your podcast, man.
It's a little lazy, hence the summary now. Like BAOS just makes it a bit easier.
Yeah, but okay. So, how did you get it? Okay, because I know when did I started really enjoying beer.
What was that?
And I remember when I really started enjoying different beers. It was late 90s. I worked at a pub and brewery in Troy, New York, and that's where I really started learning. Because where I come from, we used to drink malt liquor.
Right.
We used to drink OE 40s and stuff like that.
Okay.
And when I started working at this pub and brewery, that's when I really started learning about different beers and the amazing world of beers. Because there are so many beers out there that I enjoy that it was just so delicious, man.
It's crazy. I mean, that's a long time ago. You beat me by like a solid decade and a bit of actually like proactively discovering beers. So like I imagine it's changed so crazy since then. Even since I started, it's a whole new world. It's wild.
Oh no, it was a microbrewery, and
What was it called?
It was Troy Pub and Brewery.
Troy, T-R-O-Y?
Yes.
Huh, okay. Troy Pub and Brewery.
Yeah, I don't know if they're there anymore. It was a long time ago.
That's pretty cool, though. Did you have favorites even back then?
One of the beers that I still drink to this day is Newcastle.
Like the brown ale?
Yes, I love a brown ale. Nice brown ale. Yes. And but one of my favorites was a cherry ale that they made as well.
Okay. Like a cherry wheat or something?
It was it might have been a cherry wheat. I can't remember.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
That sounds like what would have been popping back then.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah, it's changed crazy, man. It's a whole new world. There's all the like hype. It's like some of the stuff is as crazy as like sneakers. People lining up overnight to get special releases, trading values and stuff, shipping beer literally across the world. That are highly sought after and stuff. It's insane. It's good times.
So how did you get into that? How did you get into crafting beer?
Properly got into it. I mean, I was messing around. I'm from Australia. I live in Canada, but I was at home. I thought I was fancy by drinking macro lagers from across the world. There was one place near me in Melbourne that had that. So I thought that was fun, but I didn't know what craft beer was. And then I came to Canada, and it was my first winter here, which I never really experienced before. And my friends in Australia, like January 1st, 2011, they started this thing called 365 Days of Beer. And you had to hold a beer can, bottle, or labeled pint glass, take a selfie with it, and then get 365 of those in a year. So it could be like 10 in a day and then none for a week or whatever. And I was like, well, that's not even humanly possible, but let's give it a crack since it's cold and there's nothing much else to do. And my roommate joined me in it as well. And I managed to do it in like 7 months probably. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just kept doing it for fun. And my reviews, when I first started it, I was just posting like number one. I think my first was Moosehead or whatever. And then you put Canada in brackets. And then maybe I was 12 beers in and someone's like, oh, you should write what you think about it. So then I was like, all right, cool. And I went back and all the first ones are all ones I had 1 million times. So as I kept going, I don't know anything about beer. I'm not trained. I didn't know even at the time what craft was. So I was just writing what I thought about these beers, lots of cussing, lots of messing around. And I was posting those on Facebook and then on Instagram and then syncing that to Tumblr. So I needed a name for my Tumblr page because you have a URL. So I was just called Can I say it? I guess you can't
Yes,
see
you
it,
can.
but yeah,
Can.
yeah. So I just put beer and other shit because it's literally other
Well,
beer posts and other stuff.
that's the name of this episode: beer and other shit.
There you go. And it was so lazy. And I was like, but I didn't care because I do music. That was like the main thing I moved to Canada for. And I was like, I need a side hustle, not a hustle, a side project that's just a hobby that I don't care about as far as like doing something with it that I can just enjoy. And then people were telling me to write a book because the reviews were ridiculous or whatever. I'm like, oh man, I don't want to write a book. Who wants to read a book about, with
Beers.
stupid, thoughtless beer reviews? And then my girlfriend was like, why don't you start listening to about 2015? So that was 2011. About 2015, she's like, oh, why don't you start listening or looking out for beer podcasts? I'm like, good idea. So I started checking into some, and they were all like middle-aged dudes, like super boring. There was no like effort or really low energy. It was just kind of whack. So she was like, why don't you start one? So I asked my old roommate Scott, who started the thing with me. I was like, yo, do you want to start a podcast? So because I did music, I already had all the equipment, and we just started it. Once again, called it beer and other shit because we had no other. We were just, once again, being lazy and cussing a lot, just being really casual about it. And then after maybe a year, like breweries started reaching out to want to be on it. So I think we got in at the beginning of like podcasting Canada type of thing, or at least in the beer world. We were one of the first for sure. And then there was one brewery in particular who wanted to be on, but they had an issue with the name. So we had kind of fork in the road. We could either be like, I don't care, we're going to keep cussing and doing our thing, or we could be like, you know what, let's change the name and tone it down a bit and take it more seriously. So we obviously chose that path and just called it BAOS because we couldn't think of anything else, and just ran with it ever since. So it's become like a pretty solid business at this point.
Wow, that's dope, man. That's dope. Being able to enjoy what you really love to do.
Yeah. Right? It's good, man. It's been problematic for the waistline, but it's a lot of fun. I'm pre-pandemic. We were traveling a lot. We were in the States a lot with tourism officers would take us down. So we worked with like Tourism Vermont, Virginia, Colorado. I think there was another one. And they would like send us out for a week or two or whatever, and set us up with all to interview breweries and to visit places and vlog it and everything. So it's become this little beast unto its own, which once again wasn't the intention, but you meet some cool people as well. As you know, doing podcasts, you're sitting down with folks for extended periods of time, so you become friendly. And beer is a small industry, so you just get to know folks, and it's been really cool, man. I'm grateful for what it turned out to be.
So what's your favorite beer?
I don't know if I have a favorite beer because the way beer works is almost everything you'll ever get your hands on is small batch and like one and done. So, and also the batches, because it's small, they're not always going to be exactly the same the next time.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know if I could like answer that. Like of all time, probably Heady Topper from The Alchemist in Stowe, Vermont. Which was a Vermont IPA, and that kind of started the wave of New England IPAs that's popular with all the kids right now. But that aside, that's kind of, I haven't had that for a while. I moved away from that was close to the border previously, so I moved away recently. So I haven't been back to try it, but that's the one thing about beer is that you find something you love, and then they'll just rip it away from you. It's super annoying.
So, you're a hip hop head as well.
Yes, sir.
What's your top 5, man?
Top 5? It's just I wish this is really bad timing to ask me this, but my number one of all time is Kanye West. So unfortunately, it's But I'm talking like back in 2002, I was on his shit, like listening to the leaks, the stuff. So I've been in him from the jump. So like I've got a whole wall of Yeezys right here. I'm like, this is Yeezy hoodie. I'm obsessed. And then I watched the Drink Champs interview yesterday. I'm like, fuck. So Ye, Fonte from Little Brother, Royce 5'9", Black Thought, and Scarface are top 5.
Scarface, I love Scarface.
Yes. Who's your top 5?
My top 5? Oh man, I'm kind of old school, so it would probably be Jay-Z is my favorite of all time.
He's the actual GOAT. I don't think that's a debatable topic. I feel like Jay-Z is like the GOAT.
I've been listening to him since Reasonable Doubt. He's that to me is my favorite album. I can tell you my favorite album, and it's Reasonable Doubt.
Nice.
hands down, and he's had some great albums, but that to me is my favorite album. But Jay-Z, Nas, Eminem, Biggie, and I wasn't a big huge Pac fan, so that's why he's not in my top 5. But I would have to go with Ye.
Okay, so we're both problematic right now. Thank you. Help me out.
No, but Ye is, before all this nonsense, he was
he's a
genius, man.
Yeah,
he's a genius. He does some amazing music and stuff. But
yeah. Truly changed the game with everything that he was doing. It's just watching the man. He's like, just as sometimes he might have a point, and he goes and takes everything way too far, and it's caught up and stuff. It's a real shame because I don't know if he can come back from this now. Like, if you're obviously been a Ye fan forever too, like you know that you've had to, standing up for him. It's always been it's something you've had to deal with over time. But
yeah.
Even the Kanye, there's like a podcast called Watch the Throne. Even them and these other Kanye stan Twitter accounts that I follow, even they are like, they got nothing now. And I'm like, when those guys, when they can't say shit, then I'm like, okay. We're all, so I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens if he backtracks. I can't imagine so though. I really can't.
No. He was supposed to backtrack on Drink Champs, and he just took it to another level.
Double down. Did you see today? I don't know if you caught it. Nori's on like an apology tour. He went on Hot 97 and he went on Breakfast Club, apologizing, saying he regrets doing the podcast now. But they're leaving it up. That said as well. So it sort of shows. People on Twitter are saying that they think it's just him saving face and trying not to lose too much money. But obviously they're leaving the video up. They might have cut out the really inflammatory parts. But yeah, very interesting to see that real quick turnaround, like the next day type thing.
Yeah, no. When my nephew told me, like, yo, Yeezy's gonna be on Drink Champs again, he was like, yeah, I guess somebody made him come back, and they're like, yo, you gotta do Drink Champs and clear this up, and he didn't clear it up whatsoever.
It just doubled down. They had. Did you hear about the he was on LeBron's The Shop, and they had to cut it. They actually didn't air it. Like they cut it. That episode was completely done. They didn't use it. So that's why they were criticizing Nori to be like, well, you knew that LeBron and them just had Maverick Carter specifically. They had to cut that episode. So why would you go and put him on when you knew that this was the vibe that he was on that week, type of thing?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. So you're seeing the people on the Yeezy subreddits and stuff being like, because I'm like pretty strong follower of that, and even them, a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to still wear my ones I have. I'm not going to buy any more. Or some people are like, that's it, I'm selling all of them. But other people are like, I don't care. Like, the artist is one thing. The product is
it's different,
separate.
Yeah.
So it's going to be. I mean, it's still early days, right? So we'll see how it pans out. But it's disappointing that it got this bad, because some of the things were just complete nonsense. Some of the things he had a point among the garbage and the filler, but he didn't make the point well, and he generalized things, which made things worse, and then tripled down the whole 3.5 hours. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I haven't seen it all, but yeah,
don't even really bother.
I probably won't. It's just,
it's a bit sad.
Yeah, no, to me it's just too much. It's too much, the way, especially everything that was being said. It's just crazy. But anyway, we're not here to talk about him.
No.
But one of the reasons I go live now is because the audience interaction. So what's up to my man Hawk TV? He's saying, what's up, fellas?
What up?
But yeah, so that's why I go live, is because I started off strictly audio, then I went to pre-recorded video, and now it's live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So
nice.
Yeah, it's I love it. It's a great it's a great experience to be able to do live shows.
Yeah, I agree. We used to only do them in person pre-pandemic, so we went around everywhere. Then when that hit, we're like, okay, now we got to figure it out. So we started doing them live because everybody was home. And then I think when things started opening up, we pulled back off the lives because the numbers were dropping. You're noticing the drop. But at the same token, now we just do pre-recorded. But it's still like people don't always have to watch it live. They can tune in after the fact.
So
Same
what?
result.
So what do you love doing more? Um, Reviewing the craft beers and stuff like that, or reviewing some hip hop music and stuff, or is it kind of similar? Or is it kind of similar to the same kind of love?
I would say like, well, the hip hop has a deeper love because I was into that since I was like 11 or 12, and I only got into craft beer like a decade or so ago.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'd have to take music or hip hop specifically over that because that's why I am who I am, I guess. It's like anyway, and I came from a place where I was the only, like me and my brother, we didn't really know many people who were into rap because it wasn't cool. We were little white dudes from the suburbs of Melbourne. Like it's there wasn't.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
How is hip hop? How do in Melbourne? How that is, like you said, you and your brother only white boys. That was that the hip hop scene? Was that you and your brother only, or were there other people who enjoyed hip hop as well?
There were, but we didn't find many of them. So most of our friends were like, I'm talking like early 90s. Like I guess it would have been like 91, 92 probably when we got into it. And like started to discover it, and then it got more heavy. So we would, I'm 41 now, so I would have been like 11 in 92, I guess. So like we were pretty young. It was so young that obviously my parents wouldn't have understood it. So it was always hard to convince because I'm a kid, I didn't have money. So,
Yeah.
Get them to buy it for us. So, and then obviously we're way too young to go to gigs and stuff. So there was a scene of rappers, but they were predominantly, and it was strange, obviously white dudes. It's a cultural place, to be honest, but for some reason, these white dudes became what started the hip hop scene. I'm no expert on it, but from what I saw, there were a bunch of dudes who like we used to call it like barbecue rap. They would literally rap about barbecues and painting like graffiti and trains. It was real like old school stuff. And like I don't know. I don't really identify as strongly with that Aussie culture that was so predominant in the music back then that was local. So I didn't really mess with it. And I started to meet, as I got older, I started to go out a bit more and stuff, and then met a scene of rappers and stuff we had, there was like regular nights. I think coming 2000. So the 90s, I was probably still it was still too young, I would say. And then when we were sort of,
90s is when it really started, because that's when I listened to hip hop because I'm a little bit older than you. I'm probably got you by 5 years. So late 80s and stuff is when I really started falling. That's when I started really falling into love with hip hop.
Okay.
It was more of NWA, KRS-One, Big Daddy Kane, and then when the 90s came, you had artists like Big and Pac, and you had Jay-Z and Nas and all these other great, and that's when it really started getting a little bit more commercial. So that's when and Wu-Tang, like that was, I still remember the Wu-Tang promo tape that I got that had Protect Your Neck and the Mystery of Chess Boxing on the other side.
Amazing.
And that, to me, that was I loved hip hop. It was like, this is the music I love to hear. But I would vary. I would listen to some rock. I would listen to some R&B and some jazz, but hip hop is always been my love.
Where'd you grow up?
Brooklyn, New York.
Oh man, that's incredible. So like that was always like it's the dream, like where all the things we got. So say in the 90s, so like this that I'm saying this in response to the Wu-Tang promo tape, like any album that came out, only if it was like a really big artist would it be distributed worldwide, right? Because they physically had to ship the CDs. So most local, if they were big enough, or if the order, if it would have moved. What we had to do was order them, or they would come into these specialty stores who stocked it all, but they'd be $40, $50 for a CD.
Wow.
And a regular CD, that's probably about $25 for like a regular, like something, Madonna album or something like that everyone can get. And then on top of that, the Source magazine. So I was collecting that very heavily, and I used to get them 3 months late, and they were about 3 to 4 times the cover price. So I think it was like $3.95 on there, but it usually cost about $15
Wow.
for the magazine. So like getting our hands on anything of the culture was like a whole, it was really tough, really expensive, but it was a big deal. So even getting the clothes, like you look around, when I first came to Canada and the States, I guess I lost my mind even just going into a store and there's like hundreds of fitteds or basketball jerseys. In Australia, you grew up, there was like Jordan, there was Patrick Ewing and Larry Bird or something. That was it. That's all you got was like 3. So it was like not having access to the culture, I guess, almost made
Yeah.
it more appealing too. So it was like anything you could get your hands on was like you were just so grateful. It's crazy. So it's cool being over here. Brooklyn would have been amazing, man, in the 90s. You would have had access to all the shows and stuff.
Well, in the part I lived was not. It was one of the where I lived. That was one of the roughest parts of Brooklyn. It was crazy, especially when I grew up. I grew up at the beginning of the crack age and stuff like that. So it was a lot of it's a lot of interesting stories. There definitely is a lot of interesting stories.
Did you ever catch any like legendary shows that like?
I went to the tunnel. I went to the tunnel a few times. Like being like 15, 16, 17 to be able to go into the tunnel because of who because my cousins and them were hustlers and stuff like that, and they would get us into the club. But yeah, it's been I remember we had some friends and we went to it was they were up and coming hip hop group, and we went to go see them, and it was a great show. It was in a nice little spot, and we had a great time. And then a fight broke out, and shots started flying, and we had to dip. But it was cool to actually see some hip hop artists at the beginning of their stages and see where they evolved to. So
that's great.
It was a different time, man. Definitely different time.
Yeah, man. It's special, I think, to be around. I think we're in a really great like sort of age group to sort of have been into it and been there when Illmatic came out, when Reasonable Doubt dropped, and Ready to Die, all that type of stuff, and just seeing the impact and like getting it. Like I got probably same as you, got the first pressing of Reasonable Doubt on vinyl, and it's like one of my favorite things ever because it was, you saw what the response to this artist who's now like a GOAT, from the beginning. So I feel like a lot of that, and obviously it was a bigger deal to just get that one piece of vinyl or CD or whatever, and you'd run it back constantly. Whereas like obviously, without sounding old, everything now is just streaming, so it's sort of devalued, and you just don't like give things as much of a chance. You might play it for a second if you even get to the point of pressing play. You're like, something else.
Oh no, another one of my favorites is The Diary. I love Scarface. I love that album. That was one of my favorite albums in high school, and I loved it, man. It was, to me, that was because I remember when he came out with the Ghetto Boys, and when my mind played tricks on me, that to me was one of the dopest songs ever. And so when he came out with The Diary, it was just another storyteller coming out and really telling an amazing story.
Yep. I feel like he took it even to another level with Untouchable as well, with he had great features, and it was kind of like The Diary was like really dark, like you said, storytelling focused, maybe like short, like 10 or 12 tracks. And then you had like Untouchable, which had like they had like the Puck song on there, Smile, and it had a lot of like more singing, and it was just brighter, and it was kind of like an interesting thing because he came from darkness with all the Ghetto Boy stuff, and then his solo stuff was until this. I think those were my 2 favorite Scarface albums for sure.
Yeah,
that was a great era, bro.
Oh, it was. It was some real great music.
Yeah, man.
So what made you move from Melbourne to Canada?
Yeah, man. So my brother and I, we've been rapping since we were kids, and we had remember the blogging era in the mid 2000s or mid to late 2000s? So there was one of the bigger bloggers, his name was Kevin Nottingham. He had some website, KevinNottingham.com, and he was even like the top 5 of the bloggers as far as traffic and stuff. And he was a big supporter, and he started a label essentially. So we signed, like my brother and I was in a group at the time, we had like a crew, so he basically signed all of us, and it was a distribution deal. It wasn't a big deal really, but someone from that sort of blog era recognizing that they enjoyed what we were doing, and a lot of our traction was already coming from North America anyway. So I'd lived in Canada in 2004 just on a working holiday thing. I was making music, but like, this was just to travel and do things after university. And I thought I'd never be able to come back again, because at the time you do the working holiday visa once, then you can't do it again. So it might not sound familiar to you, because America typically doesn't have a reciprocal working holiday visa program with countries. Like I think it's one of the only countries that doesn't have it. So when he was based out of Miami, so we were like, well, I dream about moving to Toronto like every month anyway, type of thing. Like I always wanted to come back. I always felt more at home out here. So in 2010 we moved back, and basically never left. So we've been here for 12 and a bit years now. So it was mostly to push the music and to be over here. So in the first year we went nuts. We went to like, do you remember CMJ in New York, the festival?
Yes.
College Music Journal, yeah. So that was as soon as we got over, we went to AC in Atlanta, CW in Toronto, South by Southwest. So we were just going nuts, going to the festivals. We hired a publicist. Like we were sort of really going in to try and get the music going out there. Then I ended up moving so we moved to Toronto, and then I moved to Montreal to essentially keep myself in the country. And then we just kept going from there. So in Montreal, fortunately, it was really random, but I used to work at the Apple store in Toronto, right? And that's the busiest retail space per square foot in the entire country. So because I talk funny, I get conversations with people. And this lady got talking with her, older lady. And then I was told her I was moving to Montreal. She's like, oh, my daughter's in Montreal. And I told her about the music stuff. And she's like, she runs an event called Hip Hop Karaoke. And they're looking she's moving to San Francisco, and they need some people to take over. So they connected us with her, and we met up with them and checked out the event. So we ended up, there was like a bunch of us running it, but we ended up sort of co-running that event. And that was really, really good, because although it's hip hop karaoke, I think it started in New York and then it kind of spread. There was one of our partners was from New York. So then he lived in part between Montreal. I can't remember the deal, but he started it in Montreal. Then there's ones across the country. So it was a pretty big event. Like people lost them. People so excited and rehearsed the songs and dressed up and stuff. But I kind of thought I wasn't into it. I always thought it was kind of lame. But what I was there for were the contacts. So I got to meet DJ producers like Hey Tronado, if you're familiar with him. He's from Montreal. So he used to come to the event and perform at the event when he was like just starting out, type of thing. So I got to know everyone. So then because I knew everybody, me and my brother got a lot of the opening spots. So Montreal was a big thing for us. We got to open for like Mos Def, Raekwon, Odyssey, Black Milk, J. Rue the Damager, bunch of artists.
Yeah. Well, J. Rue the man. Yeah, J. Rue the Damager is from he's from East New York, and that's why when the East is in the house, oh my God,
yeah, danger. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, he was super cool. That's dope. So yeah, that's yeah, man. So it was pretty cool. So we didn't really hit up any other festivals sort of since. We just kind of like kept that moving. So we're just doing like tours and stuff. Then we realized like touring is kind of like not really moving the needle. Like it doesn't really do as much. I feel like it's only when you get to another level. So then we've been doing music ever since, just putting out albums, singles, videos, mixtapes, doing those shows here and there whenever something comes up, but not really chasing it like we did before. And then obviously all these side projects started with punk. My brother and I, as well as my girlfriend's cousin, have a hip hop podcast where we do review music and just talk about things that's happening in the culture. And my girlfriend and I also have a social media agency, which has become our main sort of thing. And so we kind of keep it all, like we got all of these things running at once. So it's been
so a social media agency. Do you promote artists on that with that agency, or
not artists? No, we did to begin with, but we're at the point now where we're like only work with like large corps. Like our biggest client is Facebook themselves. So like it's become like a pretty decent thing. We have a YouTube channel with a decent following, so that's where we post tips on Instagram and stuff, and then that's grown out for now we do speaking stuff and consulting, because that's led to a whole other bunch of revenue streams. So we've got a bunch of employees now, and it's cool, man. It's been really interesting because it all kind of plays in together. Like we started the agency because I did social media in Australia before moving to Canada, so I've been doing it about 15 years now. Yeah, and the sort of like that we were both working in industries just doing it, and then we just like, well, let's just do this together. So we were able to start the agency whilst running the music, and then this it all kind of started the same year because the agency went full-time in 2015, which is when BOS started, and the music was obviously still going at the time. So it was kind of concurrent, and we started doing a little bit of talent management, which probably wasn't the best move. I feel like to be a manager you need like contacts, and that's what we needed for our music. We didn't have that. We just had the organization and the social stuff that most artists had no idea about.
Yeah.
So we had a few clients that we sort of took a percentage of whatever things we booked or whatever it might be, which was cool, but it wasn't worth our heart wasn't in
that,
the management stuff. And like we had DJs on and stuff, we were booking them and stuff. It was cool, but it was just like a lot of work for chump change type of thing. And then we sort of finally figured out we got some bigger clients. So we had Sony, we did the NBA All-Star Week in Toronto in 2016. So we did a bunch of like bigger and bigger things. And then we've sort of got Facebook, and now we've got the team and YouTube change and stuff as well. So it's like making that content. We knew how to do all of that because it's interesting. You get to make content for the agency, but that's what we do. So we already had all those skill sets, plus we had it because of the podcast and the music and stuff. So they all kind of feel like they're nicely threaded together, which is great.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's really good, man.
Yeah,
so
cool,
okay,
man.
so what's the tip you can give someone to help them grow their Instagram?
That's a good question. So obviously, they're changing the algorithm all the time. The latest thing, so like the information, like if people watch this down the track, whatever I say might not be applicable because that's how much things change, which is wildly frustrating. But right now, what they care about is reels. So all they really care about is Instagram reels. They want you to make video. So the best thing is to do reels and to test different things. So like you might post a reel and go, oh, like everything's flat. I'm like, all right, cool. We'll try a different approach. Try posting at a different time. Try using the trending audio. So trending audio is one of the key things right now. So you got to find the songs that are trending, and probably best to get one on its way up rather than something that's already got like 1 million uses. And make something clever, whether it's either entertaining, educational, or inspirational. Those are the 3 key things that your post has to be. Also be consistent with it. You can't just post like 5 times this week and then not post again for a month, because it's not going to work. You can look in your insights, find the best times of day to post, and that'll allow you to get an idea of when most of your audience is going to be online, so that you're going to reach them as much as possible. You're going to be testing out the cover, the different thumbnails. That probably has a bit of a lower impact overall. Hashtags, try different hashtag banks as well for each of your content categories. Make sure you're sharing them to stories to maximize the reach. And it's going to be frustrating. I feel, on our YouTube channel, most of the comments are people are pretty pissed with Instagram in general, because things keep changing, and it's like they're trying to be TikTok a lot. Yeah. They've kind of acknowledged that recently, so it's going to be interesting to see if they change it back, because it's kind of left photographers like in the dust. Like where are they supposed to post now?
And that's one of the reasons that I see where people go, a picture as a reel, here you go. So,
and now you're getting whack content.
Yeah,
because people are just trying to get by, right? No point posting a slideshow or like a carousel. So then you get these like pictures as a reel, and like it's silly. Like it's like people start trying to hack the system, and it's I don't know. So it's tough. It's worth and if you're doing that on Instagram, then you might as well use the same content and just put it all on TikTok. Yeah, and then also YouTube Shorts if you're on YouTube. You might have to pick and choose what you put where, and keep it a little bit different, so that you're giving people a reason to go to each of your platforms. That'd be the main thing right now. It seems like that's what all they want. YouTube are pushing shorts hard, so like that's really what they want.
Well, because what is it? I guess what they're splitting with content creators as far as when what they're giving out for YouTube Shorts. It's good, but one
Yeah,
of the
the
things I learned,
monetized.
yeah, what the way with the monetize with the shorts and all that, but one of the things is they didn't mention was that yeah, you're gonna be they're saying a certain amount of number, but the first people that they gotta pay are the music companies
Yeah, that's true.
because they have to pay. Like, yeah, you can use whatever music you want on these shorts and everything and not get copyright infringement because they have to pay the labels first and then they'll pay the content creator whatever, but labels get paid upfront regardless of if you use music in it or not.
It's true. And I've heard I haven't been, we have our employee doing it, so I haven't actually done it myself yet. But he was telling me because he was uploading some for BOS that we need to post, but he was saying that you can only use a trending audio if it's less than 15 seconds. So like they're even restricting
Oh,
the
the length of
videos in
it,
that way,
yeah.
which is wild annoying. So then the only videos, like say if you got something like you take a podcast clip or you take a skit or something of you talking or whatever, then you don't have to worry about it. But if you're using any of their trending audios, you got to make sure you use from their library. And I think
Yeah.
he was telling me there might have been some sort of either a restriction or there was some stuff that wasn't there. I can't remember what he said, but there's definitely something there. But it's before anyone goes into shorts, it's definitely worth looking into the small print for exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. It's like I just got monetized in March
Nice.
and yeah, it's um, I bust my butt. I've been doing this like I've been doing it for 2 years now and grinding and it's just it's but it's good to see. It's like it's great to see your numbers and see the people who tune in and just being able to build my audience has been great because it's not it didn't happen overnight. It took some time. It took me grinding, just being consistent with my content, just keep continuously recording, putting out content, recording interviews, and putting it out there. So it's been a grind.
YouTube is probably the biggest grind because there's no like shortcut. Like I always find like Instagram, there's always little hacks and shortcuts and things like that that very rarely pan out. But with YouTube, it's exactly what you said. It's just a matter of grinding consistently over time, listening to kind of the audience and changing things up, or if you notice any trends, doubling down on things that work and
Yeah,
leaving things that aren't working. But YouTube's probably arguably the hardest one to grow. So if you make it monetize, I mean, that's 4,000 watch hours plus 1,000 subs. Like
yeah,
that's no joke. That's really good, man.
yeah.
It's a lot of work.
But again, it's being consistent. It's being consistent, and that's one thing like. One of the things people when the pandemic started, they were talking about, oh, there's 2.5 million podcasts now and all that. But as of the last few months, probably 400 and something thousand of those are active. So yeah, they might have started, but once they start realizing the work that goes into creating an independent podcast, it's
Yeah,
not easy, man. They start dropping like flies after a few episodes.
I hadn't heard that. That's really encouraging.
Yeah,
That's really good
because
news.
people you get hit with the number. Oh yeah, it's 2.5 million podcasts, probably a little bit more now. But
Yeah,
if you go really look at the numbers, how many of them are really active? And when
yeah,
I mean active, I mean they've dropped the episode within the last 30 days.
yeah. Yeah,
And it's not that number. You'd be amazed. It's not even half of a million podcasters that are active like that. So yeah,
huh.
they start the podcast, but then once they see the work that goes into it, they're like, yeah, no, this not for me. So
I think it's one of the most.
you
Go.
see a lot of shows that have like 7 or 8 episodes, 10 episodes, and
And then they
then
just
you
cut
don't
it.
see nothing out. You don't see nothing else for a year or so. So like,
Right. That's interesting. I find that even my music, I was talking about a music friend in Australia the other day who, like, he's a platinum artist in Australia, and he's like testing podcasts right now. He's like, man, I felt like he's been doing music as long as we have, And he's like, now I'm really struggling to like figure out how to do this. Like the podcast audio. And I don't know if he was talking about video. Like I feel like getting the audio, like we use, I got this bad boy here, the Zoom H4n, which I just take on the road, but there's no point. I want to get a setup, like get a mic like yours there for here. Now I have a set. I was doing it all over before I didn't need it. So even looking into that audio and getting the right things that can plug in and deal with the computer, that deal with the software that we use, connect to the camera and blah, blah, blah. And then I've got the other guests and other people that I'm bringing in. It's like, it's no easy feat to figure all that stuff out. It's quite complicated. So I think people might like, well, Anchor, I think, make it pretty easy. Or they just use their phone and they're kind of like these low production quality, like quick things or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are willing to stand up to sort of consume that type of content regularly if at least the podcaster isn't putting in some effort. It doesn't, you know.
No, it definitely doesn't. It's you just again, it's you be amazed at like the people who start and then just give it up.
Yeah, man. I could say that almost goes for anything. I found that people who like the thing that like really used to piss me off about rappers is like, you know, back in the day we always used to have a little bit of a crew and we figured a lot of stuff out in the circle that I kind of ran in for maybe other people. We figured out we had dudes designing our MySpaces to make them like super like fire and help other people out, bring them in the crew, and then we just stopped. I'm like, it happened like a handful of times. I'm not going to invest any time in anybody anymore. I'm keeping the circle super small because I feel like they'll do it for a bit and then they'll stop. Podcast is a great thing, or even as I noticed with like, you know, in the craft beer world, like beer Instagrammers, like beer gun about and go nuts and they'll get 1,000 followers and then they'll just kind of fall off. So I noticed that over time, like, and even like social media, I've done it for so long and we've had this agency, we're keeping consistent with it. It's been a roller coaster, but right now, like it's a roller coaster on an upward, you know, slant right there. So it's a lot of work, but I just noticed people in general don't seem to stick with things long term a lot across the board. Yeah.
Cool. So this is my man Tony Kaz. He's a host of the Pod Guys podcast, and he goes, the Melbourne music scene is fire.
Okay. It probably is right now. When I was there, it was all right, but a lot has changed in 12 years, I imagine. So people who were there now would know way more than me. I've visited a few times, but I haven't. I don't know Jack anymore.
I don't know how he would know that because he's not in Melbourne.
No. Okay, well then, that's different.
He's here in the state of Pennsylvania with me, but he does know a lot of stuff though.
Okay,
he does. He does. He's a very knowledgeable guy. So if he says the music scene in Melbourne is fire, then it's fire.
There's probably a lot of good acts that have maybe gone international from there that maybe I'm not aware of. Maybe I'm not paying enough attention. But that's great to hear.
He goes videos and current events, brother.
Yeah, there you go.
That's our answer.
There we go. Yeah, I wish I should stay up to date, but I kind of feel like I don't know. It's hard to keep up to date with everything, particularly like with music, with beer. I've signed up to a bunch of like newsletters from Australian beer people and stuff to try and keep up to date with that. And as soon as 2020 happened, I was like, I started to stop paying attention because I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to go back next. So there's no point. But trying to keep up with all of these different things in all of these different countries, I'm just like, it's too much, bro.
So do people send you a lot of beer?
Oh yeah, it's insane. You should see the cellar. It's crazy. Like it's on. I've got a full room to the side over there. It's like a store. It's ridiculous. It's like problematic because it's not like they'll send stuff. It's very generous, but like it's not possible for a human to drink that much. So I'll do they send them to me. Obviously, there's no such thing as a free lunch. So anything you get, you have to give some return. So I'll do I was going to say on the social media team, I'll do the photo or whatever it might be. Now it's, I guess, a reel or whatever. And then I'll, sometimes they'll send a couple of each. I don't really need a couple of each for the most part. So it depends on if there was a time when it was like basically a box almost arriving every day. I had like in our old place, we're in a house now, but we just came from an apartment in Montreal. So I had like a 1-bedroom apartment. So I had like 50 boxes, not exaggerating, next to my bed, just full of beer that I didn't even really know what was in there, because I just get it. You get something like, oh, I'll put it on the pile, take what I need for the fridge and put the rest on the pile. And so now I can see it all, which is very cool. And probably a lot of it is dying or dead, like particularly the stuff in cans or the IPAs and stuff. But yeah, the breweries have a pretty decent PR program. It took a while for them to catch on, but they sent this to us pretty much from the beginning, probably from the year after we started, within a year or something. And then because that was before Instagram, so the beer Instagram became like a thing, it started to become more regular, and the breweries realized they had to put together a PR list and start shooting stuff out. And over the last, like just this year, I would say it slowed down a lot, which I'm totally comfortable with because I got way too much and it's fine. And now it's cool. I can actually enjoy some of the cellar stuff, like the barrel aged sours and stouts that are completely fine to be aged. It gets to be a lot, but it's cool. It's a fascinating world, man. Like craft beer is really, the people are cool, but just the whole culture around it. Like a fun fact as well. We have my partner and I started a non-profit called Link Up. We have some of the beers here, and we partnered with a brewery up in the Quebec side of Ottawa. So it's called Gatineau. So the idea is that if you've ever been to a brewery, which sounds like obviously you have, most of the people in the brewery in most places are white dudes with beards. And that is no good. One, because that doesn't represent the outside world.
Yeah.
Not optimal. Two, it's not going to grow if you're catering to the same people, right? So we started this nonprofit with the idea to raise money and then offer scholarships. There's a thing called Cicerone, which is the beer equivalent of a wine sommelier. And they're our partners, so they gave us scholarships, and then we're also paying for some as well. So basically, we just made it to BIPOC, like anyone of color actually, who wants to apply, is interested in beer. And then basically we offer them a scholarship to Cicerone, which is an American company. They're based in Chicago, but they're a worldwide. They're like the what do you call it? The certification that you need. Yeah. If you go to get a job at a brewery and you've got even level 1 Cicerone, you're going to be ahead of the pack. So that's the idea, is to give people a leg up to get a better chance of getting into the industry and get a better job. And then we're going to take some of the funds from this year and we're going to do like a scholarship for a brewing school to get people on the production side, because the Cicerone is like front of house. Yeah. So like this is kind of like one of the things that basically we do these drops every we're up to do series 4, so we do it 3 times a year. Okay. And this was one of the ones. This was a brewery in San Antonio called Black Beautiful around the George Floyd situation. Situation in summer 2020. So the idea was to bring awareness to Black organizations and over as a whole, right? So the idea is that breweries could participate in it. They made all of this artwork. They sent it out as like a website, and you can just sign up and then get the thing. And they gave you a recipe. It's just supposed to be a stout, but you can do whatever you want as long as it's essentially a black beer. So it's almost always a stout. So we did this one for one of the series. I think it was, it must have been earlier this year. Yeah. But yeah, this has been really cool to try and diversify the beer industry a bit, just because, yeah, man, it's boring if everyone is the same. And then obviously people from different cultures have different perspectives, different ingredients, and maybe different food that can pair with it and stuff. And just, it's just if it doesn't represent the world outside, it's not cool. So that's something about craft beer that I feel positive about. That's starting to, like, efforts like that. We're not the only ones doing stuff like this as well. So it's cool that people are thinking about that, because there's a lot of thing about awareness. Like, people don't even know it exists. So the idea is letting people know, both, first of all, as a drinker, then people might go to a brewery and be like, oh wow, this is really cool. And then if they see someone that looks like them working there, they're like, oh, I can do this too. Because if they walk into a space and it completely feels foreign to them, I completely understand that you're going to be like, oh well, this is for me, I'll go this and be off,
Yeah.
That's, yeah, man.
Definitely. But now is the time where you get to plug away, man. So I'm gonna put you on solo layout, and you get to plug away and let everybody know where they can find you, find the podcast, everything.
For sure. Easiest way, hit us up at BAOS Podcast everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube. We drop the podcast every Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and on every podcast network. That would be the best way to find it. And if the Link Up Beer is interesting, it's just Link Up Beer at Link Up Beer everywhere, and it's linkupbeer.org for the website. If that is interesting, you want to learn a bit more about that. But that is it, man.
All right. But don't leave just set. I'm gonna just do my shout outs right quick and then the show. But I mean, you can chat a little bit off there.
Perfect.
All right. So big shout out everybody in the chat. Hawk TV, Tony Cass, thanks for coming through. Thanks for leaving comments. I appreciate it. But all right, so now it is time for shout outs. Big shout out to my Real Wise fam, Poppy J, Brandy J. Love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady, Fina. Love you and appreciate you, baby. Big shout out to my man Craig Thorne for coming through and sharing his love of beer and his love of hip hop as well. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. You know your boy Wise does it. Peace out.
Thanks for listening. Listen on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and TuneIn. Find us on social media on Twitter at wise_b_blunt, Instagram at wise_b_blunt, and a Facebook fan page, www.facebook.com/wise76. Check back soon for new episodes. Until next time, peace out.